Hey, sister travelers. Do you get excited just thinking about going on a trip or even just planning a trip? You have this excitement inside you, or maybe you come across some pictures on Instagram or you see some reels of some really amazing places, and that gets you so excited you wish you were there. Well, I'm going to tell you, go ahead and go there. Go there in your mind, because there are actually some positive benefits to anticipating, dreaming, planning a trip, folks. And I've encouraged you all along to, get out there and do those adventures. Go on those trips. Don't waste any time. And, planning a trip can really, actually, science has proven just the planning of a trip can increase your happiness. So who doesn't want to be happy, right? So go ahead and plan that trip. And here's some science behind it. But anticipating or planning a trip can have far more benefits and impact, a positive impact on you mentally. There's a 2014 Cornell University study that proved this by demonstrating in their research that anticipation of a trip or an experience, right? And that's what our trips are, they're experiences, increased a person's happiness more than buying a new material good. Now, as we know, the novelty of a newness of an object wanes over time, whereas an experience, whether it's anticipated or actualized, produced higher levels of dopamine and extends a lifetime of memories. One can share and talk about it for the rest of their life, right? It's not just, how long can you talk about your new iPhone you got? And maybe that person already has the same iPhone, so what does it matter, right? But memories of a trip can be shared and talked about. And there's another study by the Institute of Applied Positive Research that said found people to actually be happiest when they had a vacation or trip already planned. So this is why I'm encouraging you to get out there and go ahead and plan that trip. Plan it out. I know a lot of you get a little overwhelmed with the planning, but if you take little baby steps, or even just taking that one step, deciding where you're going, and start doing some research on that place, I'll tell you what, you're going to have some happy juices flowing in your head, right? And there's this excitement. And let me share with you, I know this for a fact, and it happens to me every time I go on a trip. I am so happier, as when I have a trip planned already, and I have this anticipation. I have this something to look forward to, right? We see this kind of this place that we're going to go that's going to make things better maybe, or take us away from the stress and dread of our day-to-day life. So, it can really be almost like this happy light at the end of the tunnel idea. But I will share with you, I have not seen more excitement, anticipation, and just this, that dopamine hits every time I talk to my friend. I'm going to Paris with her very shortly. And this excitement that we have, I don't think anything can dampen it, because this has been a long anticipated trip for us. And very similarly, when COVID had hit, many of us were those that did like to travel. We were stuck. We couldn't travel. So there was this, maybe for me, it was a depression, like, oh my gosh. And then thinking I would never be able to travel again. There was just that whole idea. We didn't know enough about what was happening to know if we had a future in travel, right? And so that whole time, even just thinking about traveling did help to increase or pull me out of some of that depression. But this trip that I'm going on with my best friend from college is something we've had planned for several months. Actually, it's been in our minds for years, honestly. And it was just by my just taking the initiative and said, that's it, we're doing it. We're not waiting for someday, right? We're going to do this. So I pulled the trigger, I bought the tickets, and here we are. We leave in a little over 2 weeks. We will, 2.5 weeks or so, we will actually be in Paris. And for her and I, it's a much needed trip, right? And also a much anticipated trip. And every time we talk, there's this bubbling excitement that we have. And I'll be honest, no matter what happens in this trip when we get there, I don't think nothing can take away that joy and that excitement that we had just planning this thing and just getting there, right? It's just a whole thing for us, even just to get there, right? It's like you don't think it's going to happen, but it's happening. And that's also the excitement of, planning a trip and actually getting there. And anything could happen. And that's also the excitement, right, about the trip or the vacation that you're planning. So I encourage you, because planning a trip and anticipating a trip has such positive on your brain and your mental state, that go ahead and do that. Plan it out. Even if you don't buy the ticket yet, I want you to go and research where you want to go, right? Plan out, look at pictures on the internet, find out, if I went here, right, I would do this. These are the things that I would do. Or maybe even look at, I think I'd like to stay there. I don't know about you, but because I love to travel so much, and I see things, I come across things, whether it's on Instagram or whether it's just through a travel blog or something someone has said, or even in a book. I just read a book, very interesting book, called Alone Time. And it's a journalist that travels to 4 different cities all alone in 4 different seasons, meaning, she had summer, fall, winter, and spring, that she went somewhere different. Great book. Her first one is about Paris. So I love that because she actually talks about specific places in her book. And so again, I gather that information and I put it in a, maybe a Google Docs, or if I have a magazine, I rip it out and I save it in a notebook that I have about travel, that things that I want to refer to or remember, so that if I ever go to that place, that I have some reference points to go with. So maybe you want to start keeping a little travel journal of places you'd like to go, things you'd like to see, and that whole dopamine hit of planning a trip, I want you to go do that right now. And maybe even refer back to, if you followed my podcast earlier, I did an episode about bucket list and creating that bucket list. What is on the top of your bucket list? Why not just even visually and mentally plan that trip for yourself and get yourself in this happy state, as they say, right? So sisters, remember, this is your life. Take that leap, be fearless, and go on that adventure. Plan that adventure, get all excited, get that happiness and dopamine hit in your brain, and enjoy the ride. Hey, sister travelers, did this podcast inspire and encourage you, or move you to get out there and travel? Wonderful. There are 3 ways you can thank me. First one is leave a written review for the show on Apple Podcast. 2, share the show with your sister travelers, your friends, your family. And 3, subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode. And thank you again for listening to the show. Sisters, be fearless, take the leap, and get out there and have an adventure.